Okay, really quick, GSO3. So two problems that I want to really kind of talk about here are the ones that you don't often see. One of them is going to be, well, what happens when the sequence is decreasing over time? So, for example, let's say that I had the sequence start at 200, 100 was the next term, 50 was the term after that, and 25, and so on and so forth. And let's say that I wanted to find the seventh term, okay? So what do we do in this case? Well, the one thing we have to remember is geometric sequences is multiplication only. We do not divide to find the next term. So don't tell me that the common ratio here is 2. It's not 2. We have to always multiply. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill out the formula like we normally would. A sub 7, meaning I want to find the seventh term, equals 200, which is the first term. Common ratio we're going to find out in a second. And n minus 1, and just remember, guys, please don't put 7 minus 1 in there in the calculator. Just put 6. It makes it a lot easier. Now, about the common ratio. If you know what you would divide by, in this case it'd be 2, the common ratio is the reciprocal. So dividing by 2 is the same as multiplying by 1/2. So the common ratio here is 0.5 or 1/2. Now, let's say that we had numbers here that it wasn't easy to figure out what the next term was. Here's the rule. If you're never sure about the common ratio, you take the second term and you divide it by the first term. So in this case, I would do 100 divided by 200, and then I would get 1/2 or 0.5. Now to make sure that that is common, meaning it happens more than once, you'll take the third term and divide it by the second term. In this case, I get 50 divided by 100, which again is 1/2 or 0.5. And I know my answer is there. So in this case, it's 200, times the quantity of 0.5 raised to the 6th power, and I'll get my answer that way. Now, the other one that I want to work on really quickly is, well, what happens if I give you 2 terms only, but those 2 terms are not back-to-back? Case in point, let's say I gave you a first term of 2, and I gave you a third term, and that third term was 32. And I want you to find, let's say, a sub 11. Now, in this case, finding the common ratio is a little bit harder because I'm skipping over the second term and I'm only giving you 2 terms. So we have to find the one in between. This one's not too bad because the numbers are pretty easy, but what happens if the numbers are not good? Like what if they're decimals or fractions or something like that? Here's what we do to find the middle term in order to find the common ratio. I know that my formula is going to have a 2 for the first term, and then r is going to be in the middle, which we don't know, and I want the 11th term, so the 10 goes in the exponent. Here is how I find the second term, because that's what's missing. You take the third term, divide it by the first term, which is 16, and then you square root that number. And it will always give you the common ratio. So the common ratio here is going to be 4. Now, we can go backwards and kind of play with that for a second. Yes?
There's a parent in the front office to meet with you.
Sure, can you send her back?
Yes, I will.
Thanks. So 2 times 4 is 8. Now I know that 8 has to be my second term because of the common ratio of 4. 2 times 4 is 8, 8 times 4 is 32. I know that I have my answer, and here is the formula to find the 11th term. Okay, pretty easy. Now really quickly, one last thing. When you see something that asks you for the explicit formula, that's the explicit formula. The only thing you do not enter is the n term. So let's say I wanted to find the explicit formula, and I knew the first term was 2, the common ratio is 3.5, and I wanted to find the 10th term. Well, what if I didn't tell you what term I wanted to find, and just say, solve for the nth term, and that's a thing. Basically, this just means, give me a formula that'll work every time. And that's it. All I do is don't put an exponent in, and I'm good to go. All right? Hi.